This is Touch Designer. If I unmute it, I'm not going to, but the creator of this is talking about it. This is, I don't know him, so I don't know sort of where his technical skills are in terms of coding. But based off of how he's talking about it, this is very vibe coded. So it is a vibe coded ChatGPT, vibe coded Python script being run and executed in Touch Designer that just does kind of cool text. And he's got like I forget what he named the slider, like craziness slider on it. The drum I've been beating on vibe coding and like Midjourney and what I'm calling doodling is it's not a good way to do stable, solid, shippable code and products and to be a member of a larger development team. It's phenomenal for people whose output requires code, but their specific role does not require creating code.
Welcome to the CGPro show. We are broadcasting live and this is episode 2. Thank you for tuning in. We created this show for a world that is moving at the speed of light, or even faster than that. I don't know. I don't even know what that means, but it's moving fast. Things are changing every single day. We're in inception levels deep in terms of disruption to how we make imagery using computers. We've already seen disruptions from COVID through film strikes, through AI and virtual production. We're here to talk about it live, and to do that, we would love to hear back from you how you find this show, what you find entertaining about it. Please give us some feedback. Help us build this show. We're on episode 2. This comes from the CGPro Labs. If you enjoy the show, sign up for our newsletter. You will find out more about our shows, our podcast, and all the other things that we do. I am going to bring on my co-host, Mr. Andy Cochrane.
Hey.
Hey, Andy.
Am I doing the music this episode as well?
Feel free. The jingle meister himself is here. Thank you, Andy. Andy is a creative technologist, but that's a very simplified version of who he is.
That's the best I got. Normally, here we'll make it accurate. Weird stuff guy. That's more accurate.
Weird stuff guy. There we go. On top of that, he was a VP at the Sphere, if you've ever heard of that little project. But Andy, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you for being my co-host.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we would like to welcome on our special guest for today, who is a virtual production supervisor, visual effects supervisor. Hopefully some of you know who he is. He has had an amazing career going back through all kinds of different technological advances, worked for DNEG and Dimension. Jim Geduldick, I will bring you on to the show here. Jim, welcome.
Hey guys.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And Jim he's in the sci-fi future. He's in a spaceship right now.
Yeah, that's actually a real LED wall back there.
It's a real background.
It's not the fusion model based.
Yet. We're working on it.
We can tell because your edges look really crisp.
I know, that's why I threw off I threw off the segmentation blur just to make sure, if I get up, I can go back and touch the panels.
Right. Not too hard. There's people on the other side of them doing real work.
There's robots on the other side of that wall.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to exploring that with you. At the beginning of the show, I'm going to share real quick. I'm going to share my screen and take us through what today's show is going to focus on. Cue the transitional music from Andy Cochrane.
Bum, 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 bum.
CGPro show, episode 2, keeping it real time is the theme. So we're going to be talking about trying to focus on what is real time, what does that mean, and how is production changing and shifting through all of these disruptions. So rough agenda for the show today. We've got some CG, we've got some AI. We're talking a little bit about SIGGRAPH and Houdini and Blender and a whole bunch of AI stuff. There's usually more things on that list than the CG, just because there's a ton of innovation going on in that space. But yeah, so at the beginning of the show, we want to just focus on Jim for a second. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and how did you get to do it?
Why are you
That's
here?
that's a loaded question. Um, yeah. So the short version of my background, I'll say I came through editorial in cinematography. So my background is as a cinematographer. Um, Started my career back in the East Coast through, editorial, doing as an editor on kids animated shows, doing the eyes for films, when I got more into kind of motion graphics and visual effects, which was like a gradual evolution of learning editorial, doing slap comps, and then gradually getting into CG. Early days of Maya and Max and other tools, that there was no YouTube, and you had to actually read the manual and read the books that were out there. um, and then just kind of got deeper and deeper and deeper into both the tech side of the ins and outs of cameras and lenses and things that move cameras, and then um, the heavier side of post-production CG and visual effects. And it kind of gradually led me from music videos to indie films to feature films and episodic TV, and kind of all the while always looking out on the horizon to like what new technology was coming, or technology outside Hollywood media and entertainment field, and being like, that might be able to solve a problem for what I'm doing with a director, or as as a soup or as a cinematographer, and trying to find creative ways to problem solve, because I think that's what we do every day. On Doesn't matter if it's a feature film or you're at the Sphere, you've got all these um, creative problem solving or technical solutions that come up day to day. And we're definitely at a pivot point globally in terms of technology shifts, and seen it very early on in my career of looking at film analog to digital, in terms of like film to digital, from the camera side. Then within the advancements of post-production tools and visual effects tools, like I used Nuke before Nuke was Nuke, when it was still D2 software. These are like still early shape days, combustion days. So
I loved combustion.
it was probably one of the best roto
I want
capable
combustion
tools
back.
out there. Yes, definitely. Shout out to Scott Squires.
Yeah,
Um,
lovely
but
guy.
yeah, and so there's been these like evolutionary points of just like having a interest of how things are made, and breaking things to find out how they're made, and then putting them back together and finding out, like, from the physical production side, because I still, that's my first love, is camera. And I think whether it's virtual cameras today, or it's synthetic cameras or agentic cameras or whatever we're going to call them in the future, I still think capture is one of the most important things. I don't think cameras will go away ever.
Right.
I just think our number of cameras will shrink down, especially with things like Gaussian splats and novel view capable systems. So it's a really exciting time, and I think seeing these like evolutionary steps that have come up between um, virtual production, VR, stereoscopic workflows that all a lot of us have painfully worked through over our careers. Now they're kind of all coming under this umbrella, whether it's being called, you know, AI as the modality umbrella, or virtual production, which is also another umbrella for lots of different modalities of skill sets of technology all coming together. So I feel like in content creation, which is one thing, and filmmaking, which is another, there is a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
That there's so many different solutions out there for whatever your creative vision is. And it's always going to come down to like, do you have the time? Do you have the budget? And do you have the team to be able to execute that vision? Because I think that's always the thing, like
Yeah.
executing the vision. Either you're doing it for yourself with the team, or you're doing it with a director, a DP, an art director, a production designer, producer, showrunner,
Yeah.
kind of alike. And that's how all this comes together.
You've had a very winding career. Are you, it's very chaotic right now in the industry. Are you in a mode of just kind of one foot in front of the other, one technology in front of the other, just kind of find the next, just each project is kind of its own thing? Or is there some sort of next chapter that you see that you are winding your way towards? Kind of what kind of mode are you in right now?
Uh, I'm definitely not in the mode of just sitting by waiting to see what happens with, machine learning, computer vision, diffusion models, any of that. I'm also not in a place where like I'm scared of my job,
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of us is we're kind of like polymaths in a way, or we're we're chameleons. And when you work on a lot of different projects, so I don't just work on feature films and I don't just work on episodic
Yeah.
TV. I work on immersive. I still do stereo stuff. I'm working on, still the VR AR projects. So because a lot of those have bits and pieces of all the things that I do, or if it's ICVFX, more in camera visual effects, traditional LED volume work, you're still bringing components of the other skill sets that you have
Yeah.
into that. So post production, physical production, CG, just pipeline integration. Like, how do you integrate all these different tools and technologies to pull off what you need to pull off? And by no means am I like sitting by waiting for
Right.
a one diffusion model to rule them all. Unfortunately, it's a lot to keep track of today. Of like what Houdini's doing, what Unreal's doing, what Touch Designer's doing, what
Yeah.
Google's doing, and at some point you kind of you try to structure it as much as you can to be like, hey, give yourself enough like personal R&D time to experiment with the diffusion models, with Comfy UI, and integrate that into Unreal, into Nuke, into Fusion, into DaVinci Resolve, whatever it is that you're using. Um, and I do base it off of productions too. So if there's a certain piece of tech and I have a production and I know I have a little bit of that um, R&D room, or time to experiment, and know that that tool might be very beneficial for that project, I'll either do a proof of concept and present it to maybe the production team, the director, showrunner, or tech team that I might be working with, and be like, hey, this is probably going to come up for us. This might be a solution. Do we have the budget? Do we have the team? And do we have the room to experiment? Or have I done enough experimenting ahead of time to be like, hey, this is rock solid. I can,
Right.
deploy this for the next project.
Awesome. So speaking of that, in the real time realm of the pie slice of your career that is real time, we were just kind of transitioning into talking about what's happening in real time right now, and kind of everything's getting real time, and we've got a few different topics to talk about within the realm of real time. And kind of the first one, you did go to SIGGRAPH. Ed and I did not make it up to Canada this year for SIGGRAPH. Have you seen Nuke stage in person? Did you
Yeah,
get to play with it?
I was on the early kind of advisory uh, committee, if you will, to a bunch of people giving feedback to the Foundry. Obviously, I've been a Nuke and Foundry user for a good part of my career. It's it's interesting with the real time tools that are out there for VAD style workflow. CG to
Mm-hmm.
volume versus plate to volume workflow, because that seems to be the differentiation between that. Is are you working with true CG 3D assets that are then over end display or touch designer, or are they more plate where you're using a media server from everything from
Right.
Disguise, Touch, Pixera, uh, um, and then some of the newer flavors we have on there is with Nuke Stage and with Chaos Arena, we have, and I would say you have established companies bringing
Mm-hmm.
new products into the real-time space, and they're playing a little bit of a catch-up, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
with what Nuke Stage, still being early to this, but relying upon the core base of what Nuke and the Foundry have, both from um, tool sets in Nuke and Nuke Studio, and then also just the R&D and research side of what the Foundry does. You have some really core tool sets in there, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of CG tools, color managed pipelines, codec support, um, playback capability, and kind of like industry standard support, and Nuke tools that
Right.
transition over into Stage. It is a plate playback tool right now. And one of the things I do really like about it is its color management system, which is very
Mm-hmm.
familiar for anybody from Nuke,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to work with color management, OCIO, USD workflows, um, all of which are not trivial to set up and to have a pipeline. But it's nice to see some of the Nuke tools become more real time capable, because that was always a big thing with Nuke, is it
Yeah.
had so much potential as a post production comp tool that those of us in doing plate playback for real time, working with very complex HDRIs, multicam stitch from camera arrays, and then just project structure of even getting something like this to hook up to um, ShotGrid, aka flow production tracking is what it's now called. But your
Right.
DAM system, or whatever your backend kind of asset management system would be. But there's great camera tools in there. There's great projection stuff. A lot of which was ported over from Nuke.
Right.
Um, so 2.5D workflow, very common in Nuke. A lot of that 2.5D that we see, I think, right here now on the screen is kind of showing, that little bit of parallax that everybody likes to get from plates.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having to do what would be more, traditional conform to dimensionalize some plates, and you're doing things like camera tracking, that's usually the dead giveaway between plates and a true camera tracked camera, is the difference between that, being able to have that depth and parallax
Yeah.
within the scenes.
We I'm personally, I haven't used it yet. I'm personally excited about Nuke Stage because we had a a fight with the Nuke Studio team, and we being kind of the industry, not just myself or a small group, where Nuke Studio was meant to sort of be that smoke, that sort of bridge between the very much not online, very much not real time, very much not
Hmm.
performant Nuke, and some kind of conform tool. And the argument we always kind of had was like, yes, my source footage is 4K, 8K, 16-bit, 32-bit. I need to hit play and have it play back. I don't need the online in Nuke Studio to have all those pixels, to have all that data. And there was kind of always this like, we can't proxy to 8-bit. We can't do those things that you're saying. You can do that yourself,
Yeah.
and then you can conform it. And it was this fight between performance and quality. And I'm happy to see them kind of giving in a little bit in a good way, where like I don't, you could have the most high resolution, high quality data in the world, and if it doesn't play back, then you're done. You can't edit. You can't edit frame by frame, and you can't do VP frame by frame. And so I'm more excited, I think, about what Nuke Stage will do for Studio and Nuke and flow backwards, and sort of really force the caching system to be revisited, which I believe it has been, and all these
Yeah.
things that have always kind of made Nuke slow,
Yep.
um, yet high quality. And it's like you don't have to. It's not either or. It's just modalities, and I'm excited to see them kind of visibly accepting that, which is I think
Yeah.
good for all of us.
And that's where like
I'm gonna move
the
us.
relay system is kind of in play with the caching system with the relay.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, they're listening, so that's a good thing.
yeah,
They know the industry.
yep.
I I'm going to
Scrum
move us across
Master,
to the
move
next
us on.
one because we've got a lot to get through.
And
Let's
Jim's got
go
a class
to
to teach.
exactly. So let's go on to our next song, which is Chaos Arena, a newcomer in virtual production, in being able to present 3D backgrounds through ray tracing in real time.
Jim kind of touched on this one a little bit, talking, bundling this with Nuke Studio, which I think is the right move. These are traditional tools, traditional workflows, familiar, integrate with existing software. This is very exciting stuff for anybody that hasn't sort of cross-trained or retrained into Unreal, and kind of held on to sort of the existing pipelines and tools. Those folks that I know that have used it have been extremely happy with how stable it is, and I think that's more a credit to it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. It loads V-Ray materials and V-Ray scenes, and it renders them in real time. It doesn't have blueprints. It doesn't have
And
a lot of
display.
stuff. Yeah, it doesn't have end display. It doesn't have a lot of extra stuff. It just renders pixels, and so I think it's the old school pipeline integration, the backwards compatibility, and the stability are the two things that I've kind of everyone that's used it has been saying.
Yeah, I think a lot of these new tools coming in, or I should say, a lot of these newer solutions coming from kind of core industry providers like, Chaos, obviously the core of Arena being Vantage and V-Ray. Um, they bring a bit of trust with that because they're not this like random new company that's just like, hey, we have this like, VAD to volume solution and no kind of background or no street credit, if you will. I think both the Foundry and Chaos have very solid street credit into providing industry solutions there. Obviously, look, none of these things is the one ring to rule them all. It's right tool for the job. So, there may be things where you might choose a different media server that's more geared towards plate playback because you may not be doing anything with CG and you might be just doing, 2D plates or, kind of multicam array plates with the virtual stitch, and you just need something that can play back really well. There's tons of choices out there from the live and kind of VJ space, everything from Resolume to
Mm-hmm.
Touch to Notch.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many solutions out there, and I think that's good that we have competition joining the real time solutions, in that welcoming Nuke Stage as a tool, welcoming having conversations with Chris and the guys at Chaos to just be like, hey, you know I want to see these features in there,
Right.
or I'd like to see this, because being that Chaos Arena and Nuke Stage are newer to the market for ICVFX, there are some things that are missing from like a tool set or a workflow. But the cool thing is, I think both companies are listening. If they're
That's the
not
key.
doing it themselves, they're leaving like SDKs, APIs, or hooks for other people to fill gaps, whether that's building your own stage tools with Python, or doing some other tools with
Mm-hmm.
controlling things and setting up your own stuff over OSC for triggered sync control.
Yep.
And it's just going to be, I think, like everything else, like the real time's where it's at. I think a lot of us have been chasing real time,
Mm-hmm.
like waiting for those buckets to drop. It's like, we'd
I
much rather see that in real time.
I sat next to a guy in Lightwave using F Prime to basically light in real time while I was sitting in Mental Ray and then V Ray, half an hour per frame sometimes in 2004, 2005.
It's
It's
batch rendering with Nucleo Pro and After Effects back in the day. I
yeah,
mean, like, it's
but I
like,
mean, like real time feedback is critical. It's not just about virtual production. It's not just about less people faster, blah 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 blah. It's about like I think we've all
it's
experienced
creative
it.
decision making can happen a
Yeah,
lot faster.
yeah,
Like
Exactly.
you
iteration.
can, and
It's not
that's
just
the
the
fun
rendering.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
just
And
the rendering; it's the
I
collaboration
mean,
and the feedback loop.
raise your hand if you have not kicked off a 12-hour render only to discover that you had disabled some setting or turned off
you got to
reflections,
re-render it.
or and you got to re-render the damn thing. But when you're looking at sort of WYSIWYG, like this is my render. When you hit go, yes, it's going to take longer. It's going to be higher quality, but there's no sort of like turn off 47 things in the V-Ray interface just to get performant, and then remember all 47 of them, and put them all right back where they were. So
I think anybody in post-production, visual effects, CG, any form of our visual effects brothers and sisters in there, I know there's a lot of worry about the changing tides that are happening, but I'm actually really excited for a lot of this stuff. I kind of I don't really have like the doom and gloom. Yes, like there's the legality and the copyright side of things that I do think need to be adjusted. I do feel that artists
yeah,
should be paid for their work, especially if it's included into large data set models, which are
mm-hmm.
run by multi-billion-dollar companies. Yes, pay people. Do things ethically. A lot of this stuff right now is moving fast and breaking. So you know, it, it it's just Pandora's box has been opened. You're on a bullet train. Hang on for the ride right now. But I do think that as a creative, my excitement over this is like seeing all these breadcrumbs for so many years of the promise of real time, the promise of, you know, basically having like a simulcam, on your phone, which we basically do have with like an iPhone, even
Yep,
even indie tools like Jet Set are amazing to
yep,
play with. Um, and these things used to cost millions of dollars to create, even if you just go back to the first Avatar with Cameron and Glenderry and a lot of the team of what
yep.
they created there. Um, yeah, I'm hopeful and I'm psyched because I love playing with new toys and I like breaking things. So like I have an excitement for all this new stuff, and it's a lot to manage because every day there is a new drop of something. It feels like
Every
so.
hour, it's even more than
Yeah,
every
especially
day.
when it
And we
comes to
get we,
model base.
Well, on
we
on
the
on that front,
yeah. Take
Jim.
it away, Andy.
So I guess I have to do the music. The news. Jim, you did go to SIGGRAPH. So on
Yeah.
that front, what did you see at SIGGRAPH that ties into exactly what you were just saying? The new stuff that is coming down the pipe that you're excited about, and you don't have to go into too
Yeah,
much too much.
I'll
Give
give
us the
you a
highlight
short,
reel.
short version. A lot of cool tech papers. A lot of those tech papers are all available to read. Through that, you can get the Cliff Notes version by watching the 2 Minute Papers YouTube channel. There's a lot of cool, obviously, stuff at the pals over at Netflix and Eyeline on their image-based lighting research that,
Mm,
our buddy Paul DeBevick and team and Kevin Bailey are all working on over at Eyeline.
yep.
Um, Obviously Paul's history of research and tooling precedes himself. So the image-based lighting paper that they had done was cool. I got to talk to some of the team at SIGGRAPH. All the tech papers that were displayed from students to the research scientists to companies was really good to just kind of walk the hall and just look at the papers and talk to the
Nice.
researchers and the students and the companies. That was cool. You can dive into those through the SIGGRAPH website.
Yep.
There's a lot of AI talk. What was cool was it was less about the hype of what a specific generative platform promises through their polished
Mm-hmm.
videos, and it was more, I felt, for SIGGRAPH of like between the production panels showing utility use case of machine learning, computer vision, and diffusion models being used in like integrated pipelines was really interesting. So,
Cool.
you know, um, a lot of talk about different productions that are now live, like Superman using Gaussian splats. I think it's one of the first feature films that I know of
Yeah.
that have actually got usable Gaussian
Yep.
splats into the workflow, and more for comp than for ICVFX, because Superman did use a lot of ICVFX in terms of a plate
Right.
workflow.
Right.
Um, so it was cool to see that. You know, for Sinners, with my buddy Michael Ralla and a lot of the DigiDouble work that they did
Yeah.
between. the
That
teams
hit,
that were there.
that rig was
Yeah, the
amazing.
Halo
Yeah,
rig,
the Halo
which was
rig
like
was
funny
incredible.
because it was like, it was DJI action cameras for the Halo rig. They built a custom rig.
Totally.
They spit it into their data set to um, twin Michael B. Jordan. Since
Mm-hmm.
for there's
Mm-hmm.
no spoiler there, but he plays himself 2 times, because of his twin character. Um, and looking at more of the machine learning, computer vision research and pipeline integration that a lot of I would say small projects to AAA projects, meaning like AAA film, AAA games, of integrating um, useful AI. And I say that broad because AI is it's like saying virtual production. It's like
Yeah,
what modality of these tools are you talking about, or how is
which
it
is
being used?
great because VP for a long time was Unreal Engine on an LED wall. It was nothing, and then that's what virtual production is, and that definition is really expanded now, where it's yes, it's green screen, it's even simulcam, and what
Yeah.
Jet Set's doing, just on a phone. So on that topic, Unreal 5.6 was not necessarily SIGGRAPH launch, but to kind of
June
transition
launch
into
at
talking about,
Unreal
yeah,
Fest.
yeah. So high level, and I know that you've been very involved a lot on the standard side and getting SMPTE sort of involved, and it's not necessarily an Unreal specific thing, but really trying to get stuff into Unreal Engine. And I know you were very excited when 5.6 came out because there was a bunch of stuff you've been quietly working on, or not quietly, but behind the scenes working on. Talk a little bit real quick about the stuff in 5.6 that you're either excited about and had nothing to do about, or relieved that it's now there.
It was a major update, I mean, and if you look at the roadmap, obviously we're already, talking about 5.7 is kind of on the roadmap, but like with 5.6 and 5.6.1 hotfix that just came out a couple weeks ago is, um, there's a large amount of updates. Obviously, I would say metahuman and animation workflows are
Yep.
are the biggest updates for 5.6. There was a lot of under the hood virtual production updates, but I think from an Unreal side, virtual production like ICVFX has matured enough to a certain
Right.
level with the team there. I was really excited to see mocap manager coming in there,
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
centralizing the animation um, mocap and VP tools coming into like a central location like you would have if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing stuff in Motive or Shogun and some other tools out there. Um, with Nanite and Lumen, those are big updates.
Yeah.
There's tons of optimization on um, just working with large, heavy data sets within there, whether you're doing games or you're doing virtual production or you're doing mixed reality. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a lot of the under the hood updates going on in there of being able to get things with DLSS working with the
Yep.
updated DLSS. That's a major thing when it comes to lighting and complex scenes. A good amount of us that do heavy lifting are on NVIDIA GPUs. So being able to have the updates with DLSS from the NVIDIA side, working with 5.6, that was a major thing too. Obviously, if you're doing more games and you're doing UEFN and animation control rig workflows, or especially the updates for MetaHuman Animator. Those, I think, got some of the biggest updates in recent history for UE5 as a whole for launch.
Mm-hmm.
It just simplified things and it optimized the workflows and the pipelines to making it kind of more cohesive. So that was
Yeah.
the big thing. You would hear a lot of like, well, I've got to jump through these hoops within Unreal to kind of get over
Right.
here with Control Rig if I'm doing animations, and if you're doing anything with metahumans, and even previously, unless you guys Enterprise, like it was not easy to get metahumans out, and now we have the metahumans for Maya
Yep.
workflow as well.
And Houdini,
So
right? Maya and
yeah,
Houdini,
Houdini,
I
yeah,
think. Yeah. Yeah. Both.
that's really
yeah,
promising. Being able to get creature effects workflow into that kind of pipeline.
It's an interesting move too because it's kind of getting them on the path to metahumans not being sort of like an Unreal thing with DCCs feeding it,
yeah,
and more a little bit of a standard, not a standard, but a platform almost for digital humans. it'll be really interesting to see as they move sort of offline into the DCCs if they're able to make sure that it's not just all about getting metahumans in Unreal Engine. If metahumans is
Yes.
a little bit more of a universal sort of format.
And I think all these platforms would like us to stay more in there. And I think we do without having to jump through a bunch of different DCCs to do, one
Right.
specialized thing or the other. If
Right.
like, if you're jumping from, a Substance and Marvelous designer to create, clothing and cloth sims for metahumans, those workflows are easier. And
Yeah.
our my buddy Matt Workman, just launched his whole kind of uh, motion capture library, if you will, for working with metahumans and other stuff. So you have like these creators and these developers creating tool sets that are kind of bridging the gaps of like what a particular DCC or real-time engine um, either is not focusing on. So it's great if you're a developer or you have an idea to throw something up on Fab or Gumroad or whatever it is to kind of like find these tools. And I think there's a lot of cool tools that are filling certain gaps for Unreal Engine users that are coming out by indie developers or other soups or people like that to kind of go, hey, here's the sticking point for me. How quick can I create some bad assets, with a PCG workflow, or how can I
Right.
create a swath of metahuman clothing for for skinning your character. And it's
Right.
like the UEFN side is a whole nother beast
I know.
that got major updates. So it's like we could probably spend a whole thing on UEFN too, but it's just like, yeah, I would say five,
Let's
six.
do another show.
I
Yeah, I
know.
was gonna say like just we need the 5.6 show, where it's just
Yeah,
get
seriously,
really
because
nerdy.
it could be its own hour plus easy because um with all the talks that came out from UE Fest in Orlando, one of which was mine. So if you haven't seen it,
I
it's
have.
up on
Go check it
Epic's
I
out.
did watch it. I did watch
YouTube
it.
page, all about virtual cameras and virtual cinematography. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things to be psyched on 5.6. And I think ones
Yeah.
that even if you're more of an ICVFX workflow, hands down, if you're doing anything metahumans, you should totally jump on 5.6.
Yeah.
And even if it's ICVFX wise or your simulcam or VCam workflows, like 5.6 has enough of major updates um, for this pipeline work that it makes it
Yeah.
worth it jumping up to that version.
So speaking of a thing we could spend an hour on, Houdini updated to version 21, and they're going the other direction. So this is, UE is going to eat the lunch of the traditional DCCs, and Houdini is actually starting to get a little real time between,
Mhm.
Karma getting faster and faster, and Ed's got a fun little demo of a very exciting new update in Houdini. So take it
Yeah,
away, Ed.
can do a quick share. Yeah, and it's to their credit, them living up to what they said in release 20, maybe. I can't remember when he said it, when Crispin said it, but it was their pursuit of real time and machine learning was where they were really excited, but not in a hypey way. And some of that stuff is starting to bear fruit, starting to show up. So real quick here is me. Obviously, my face is frozen since I decided to
As soon as
do
you touched
a
it.
live
Live demo.
demo. All right. Well,
So
hopefully I
it'll
can
come back.
relaunch it.
Go for it.
What we're looking at here, though, other than me and my dodgy eyes, is this is Copernicus, or the 2D rebuild of their 2D system inside Houdini, which was always there, but didn't have a lot of love for a lot of years. This is now really fast. It runs in real time, next to real time. It is what we're currently looking at is my webcam, or at least it was until I
Yeah,
decided
go
to
ahead and
do
restart it. Yeah, go ahead and
too many
restart it.
things at the same time.
This was
Um,
released, you said yesterday, Ed?
yeah, this week
Yes.
release.
Yeah,
I
so
think it was yesterday.
this is fresh off the
Fresh off.
fresh out of the oven. But
Fresh off the press. There it goes.
and
I'm
the
going
cops
to
or
relaunch it.
the Copernicus / cops what's worth mentioning too is that some former Nuke, you know, major names in the Nuke world have come over to Side Effects over the last few years, with the stated kind of quiet mission of completely overhauling and replacing Cops. Cops has always been a really great quick slap comp thing for Houdini artists, and great for really
Image
magical,
processing as well. Like,
yeah, just magical, like pulling, doing weird stuff, generating 3D from 2D, textures, projecting stuff, doing really kind of like magical things. But it pretty slow. Old Cops,
Yeah.
pretty rough. And the new, there it is.
so
So
here we have they've now got a live stream node into Cops. So that's what this is. It's streaming into Houdini. If I wasn't streaming to like 4 different cameras right now, it's essentially very responsive, unless I was doing that to it. This is running in through the Cops network. And if I just do this one little quick thing here, you can see how this is now doing some stuff to it. This is not really compositing per se, but like it's doing some interesting image manipulation work to it. This is projecting onto a cube as a texture. So it's like a live streaming texture using a video input and doing some kind of novel, like fun type stuff, I guess. There's a little edge detect one right there, so I can make myself look really disgusting. But really, what this opens up, it's super fast. It is brand new, so go check it out, explore it. But what this opens up to me is the ability to be able to bring in video into this context, and because of the things that they're doing in terms of training and inference in this context, that means you can run models in here. It means you can infer machine learning models. You can use them in a compositing pipeline, and also build in all the workflow and task management stuff that they've been cooking for the last 8 years or however long it's been.
I think you're going to start. I don't think you're going to see Touch Designer getting completely replaced by Houdini, but I do think you're going to start seeing Houdini become maybe one of your video inputs, one of your video sources, because it does unlock, a ton of traditional tools that have not been really available or possible. But more importantly, if it's this performant for, streaming a webcam, it's this performant for just doing any compositing task, which, to what we were saying a few minutes ago, iteration. So if they've got Cops running running real time, then the future's super bright for for this.
It's so funny because most people probably don't know the lineage between Side Effects and derivatives of, there is the connection there.
Yeah, they're
And
like, did this, and now they're
I mean, even from Cops, and we have Tops and Chops and Touch Designer. So
well, and Touch Designer just got Pops. So like it's all they've been in parallel, but they are kind of starting to come back together. But this is super exciting. And then, Ed, I believe you have a tab open for the Blender as well, which was the final thing to talk about in SIGGRAPH. So Blender has had various denoising algorithms available, optics and various denoisers, but they've implemented DLSS, which is an NVIDIA only denoising technology, and this is kind of pretty close to final frame in real time from Blender.
Although very skunk works still.
This is not. This is early days, but
it's not even out yet.
No,
it's not in any build.
Shown. No, but it's
pretty
for
amazing.
those folks that haven't used Blender or don't know. Blender pursued for a while building their own game engine, and that R&D, that tech sort of became Eevee, which is one of the 2 renderers available in Blender. This is not Eevee. This is Cycles Path Tracer. Does great work. It's a really good render engine. But with DLSS, you're basically getting Eevee performance, which is basically real time, which has been really fun and productive to use in cycles, so you no longer have to sort of use all Eevee. It's not ray tracing, so you have to use reflection probes if you want to see a reflection, and very hacky to get sort of gobos or light textures and stuff. But now with DLSS, kind of the one reason to use Eevee, but then render in cycles seems to maybe be on the way out, which is exciting because it is kind of a little bit of an annoying, sort of
different
like
enough.
it's different enough that and hacky enough on the Eevee side. And then the technology that has nothing to do with
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the technology that has nothing to do with DLSS. It's the opposite. Is Blender now they've been experimenting with Vulkan support, and now it is in the shipping 4.5. You can choose it as a toggle. It's not enabled by default. There is no DLSS. That's an NVIDIA technology. But what Vulkan promises is kind of the next generation and platform independence. So there's already a build of Blender working on the iPad. That is not the exciting thing. The exciting thing is that it is running Vulkan, which is why it works on the iPad. It means that now Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, Vision OS, that Blender is kind of staged now for not just being, Windows primary with Mac and AMD and everyone kind of secondary. So this is very exciting.
Yeah.
Go Google
and
it.
we get
Kudos to Blender Guru. Thanks for sharing that clip. We have a lot more things
to blaze through.
Don't forget Aces 2.0 full support coming in Blender 5 whenever that gets announced. So that's a big thing for those of us.
It's a big deal.
In working with Aces 2.0 workflows or Aces CG in general, is having that fully supported. And that was another thing that was talked about at SIGGRAPH from the open source days through Academy Software Foundation, was like some of these updates to Aces 2.0 that was done by like Alex Fry and some of the other teams on the Aces committee.
So speaking,
let's go into AI portion of the news of the week.
Let's do the AI, the rapid fire rodeo of new stuff in AI.
So much.
So Ed, you've got a demo of Nano Banana.
Nano Banana, less of a demo, more of an image, but images that I made myself with it. Certainly. So Nano Banana, which is really Google Image Flux 2.5, it's Nano Banana to everybody. I probably will stick. In this image, the three pictures that you see here, one is my face, obviously, and then feeding this into Nano Banana with some words. I think I still have the Gemini, but anyway, my face, I asked it to make me into a deep sea diver because I like deep sea diving. I've never used a suit like that before, and it did. It made that whole second picture. I didn't give it the background. It put my face into that context, and then using my eye, I realized that the face looked a bit washy. It didn't really look super integrated. So I thought, well, I wonder if it'll take notes from me. And I said a bunch of things. But included that my face doesn't look properly integrated. Can you shadow it more and embed it more? And then this is what it did. The rest of the image is identical, and it just went in and kind of grounded me inside that suit a bit better, which is really different than having worked with models before where they would just completely rebuild everything. Being able to give it notes like that, somewhat like I might to an artist on one of my teams, was really interesting to me.
Did you say that you prompted the banana as well?
I did, yeah. I said, can you make me a banana in the style of the Google logo universe? And
that's awesome.
It did that too. But it was really like this little conversation turned me into, that was an astronaut version, turned me into a deep sea diver. And then I said, I'm a bit taller than that, and the head looks a bit like it doesn't fit on the body, and you need more shadow inside the helmet. Notes I would give an artist. And it didn't listen to half of them, like some artists might be, and it just did the one thing, shadowed me into the background.
But so it's definitely text-based image editing is that's the new hotness, because the trouble that has been is the slot machine of diffusion models is that every single iteration is a brand new generation, and you're refining the prompt and the seed and and all the settings, but you really are just in a chaos.
It's the biggest, I think, part to the workflow with a lot of the diffusion models, whether you're training your own or you're using a platform, is obviously their biggest thing is they're really good at short form content right now, short form outputs, because of
Yeah.
the limitations of the models, because there is no color management. Most of these things are
Yep.
spitting still out H.264s, H.265s,
Yep.
limited resolution,
Yep.
8-bit
Frame rate.
JPEGs for the
Yep.
most part. Yeah, frame rate,
Yep.
continuity and consistency, um, which has gotten better in the past 6 months, but it's still it's still nuanced in the total control that you would have, even coming down to
Totally.
kind of working with what they would deem their camera systems or camera controls, from like Moon Valley's Mari to to Nano Banana with Free Pick, or whatever, in whatever front end GUI you might use to manage your models, a la like Comfy, Flora, Weavy, and some others. But they all have different outputs, and you still have to
Mm-hmm.
get them into a DCC or get them into an editorial platform, and you have to do a lot of conform work on this stuff too to even get it to be usable. But
Yeah.
if we're talking about content for social media, that bar has been already
Oh,
set.
it's
It's a
exceeded,
meetable
exceeded,
bar, yeah, of
exceeded.
like
This
good
stuff is better
enough.
than. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good enough for social media, 100%. We're seeing
Yep.
it still up everywhere in that. And that's why I think kind of commercials and advertising have leaned into this so much,
Yep.
because the good enough bar is different from being
Yep.
a bar that we set for feature film, episodic, and AAA games. Is it's still a bar that's a higher level, but it is, I think, the litmus test of these tools coming into the high end workflows is also being tried, day
Yeah.
in, day out.
Yeah. No, the theory of good enough is alive and very well with with, with AI generation, and this is nobody knows how to pronounce it. Elf Runway's video editor, which is similar to the Nano Banana but in motion. Haven't played with it personally yet, but the results, the proof's always in the pudding. So
The segmentation approach with the backgrounds changing and kind of leaning more towards these like world models that a lot of people are starting to use for marketing and explanation of where these models are going in terms of like building outside of just characters and props and things like that is really interesting. So it so LF comes out, and then Luma updates on their side. So it's like there's the give and take every other day of these models, like where they're sitting on some things, and it's like, are they waiting for the competition to drop the new model, or is it just that these models drop so close into each other because there's a lot of similar research and requests coming in from those of us that are end users to these
mm-hmm.
platforms to say, hey, we need more control, we need more consistency, we need these are checklists of what it would be that we need. And you know some of this stuff is like really starting to look good and starting to challenge what would you be. I'd still say, like, even with the caustics and the smoke and the flames and water that you're seeing, from these things, it's like it might pass for some stuff, but when you really get into it, like, a Houdini sim is going to look 1,000 times better than
Right.
some of this stuff that comes out here. But that depends on the project you're doing. It might be
And
fine.
good enough for a
Yeah.
lot of, or it's, I wouldn't even say good enough for a lot of this stuff. It's better than a lot of the human slop that is taking over the world of social media and content in general. Is
It
there's
still
a
does
lot of.
humans weird. It
Yeah.
does. I
Yeah.
still say that stylistic versus photoreal is still a gap that needs to be addressed a bit more in terms of especially for photoreal human like characters in
I
output
I
from these.
I think it's going to have to be puppeted. I really do. Like markerless mocap, because the the models are not capturing motivation, right? They know what humans look like when they move, but they don't know why. And so therefore the humans are always doing some weird kind of almost idle animation or moving too much, or, they're, it's unmotivated motion, and it's like scene appropriate or situation appropriate, and it's promptable, but it's not even about nuance, and it's not even about control. It's about motivation.
It's based on the data sets, obviously.
Yeah,
It's trained on a lot of different material that has been out there, and I still think that's why I say, like, if you're a skilled animator, like, you're doesn't mean your job's gone. Learn what these tools can and can't do, and with your skill set as a really good storyboard artist or a really good animator or whatever your role might be. I mean, like, these are the points where you have to lean into this stuff and just know where their limitations are, just like you would do with any DCC. And you're going to
right.
jump to different tools to find different solutions. So I would
Yeah,
say, with all the people that are worried about these models taking jobs, or having departments go away or companies go away, like, literally this is the best time to lean into this stuff and experiment, because I still think that human in the loop is not going away.
it can't. These models actually have no cognition, so they don't know what to make. There needs to be a
We're
human in the
looking
loop.
at we're looking at Kling 2.1 here, and they're coming in with their first and last frame, bits more
Yeah,
control, being able to direct these things, being able to have control over what, at least the beginning and end of what you want to see. So what you guys are describing is being the artist, being the driver, being able to put your taste in there, put your art direction in there, put your control in there, essentially. And we're seeing bits more of that wake up. We've
Yeah.
got more to show, and
Let's. Do
I'm
you have?
sensitive of Jim's out for his
He has
workshop.
to teach it.
I
He has
still
to
have
teach a
some secret
class.
stuff to show too.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
So last one on our list that's worth talking about real quick is, Ed, do you have the Comfy UI, the new UI, because it kind of ties into that.
sure. You can pop
But
that open. Yeah, a place to try and get control over AI models. Everyone's
yeah,
probably familiar with Comfy at this point, and the ironic update that happened recently to this being that it's called Comfy UI and has had a slightly interesting UI since the beginning. All fair credit, did an amazing job with it, but they have updated the UI now, and it's got some interesting bits and pieces in there that are quality of life kind of things. You can see at the bottom right there's a mini map. So if you've got a big, giant, messy node network in here, you can see the little mini map in the corner and help yourself move around in it. You can select nodes and collapse them into subgraphs. There's
subgraphs
more.
is that's a huge one for them, because it's. I'm going to go on a very short, very aggressive rant about Comfy UI, which is, it's not a problem with Comfy UI. It's actually a problem with the Comfy UI user base, which is, I have never seen artists or technicians organize flows as poorly as every single Comfy UI user organizes them. It is absolutely impossible looking at this to see the chain of data of processing,
Yeah,
and it's because they've clustered processes that are related to each other. There's all your models, but the ability to see where those models are plugged in and in what order is there. You just have to spread your graph out a little bit more. It's what every Nuke artist. If I was supervising a show in, Nuke artists or Houdini artists or any other nodal thing, and I looked at somebody's flow and it looked like 99% of the Comfy UI flows that I see, I would either demote that person, pull them off of, whatever sort of, like, you work on the edge case stuff where it doesn't matter that what you're creating is a spaghetti rat's nest mess,
right.
or just say, you know what, I know that this is kind of a waste of time and money, but I want you to organize your flow properly, because if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, the person that inherits this is going to have to spend days trying to, and I'm angry about it because I think it's actually holding the Comfy UI user base back,
Yeah.
because opening somebody's project file and learning how it works quickly is one of the best ways to learn anything. And opening anybody's Comfy UI flow, even if it's got this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you end up not really knowing actually how the LoRa's are connected, and what the order of operations is, because they've created this absolute spaghetti mess. End rant.
I think that's a big thing of any of these AI or diffusion based models is a lot of the companies do not come from production, and they don't know much about production pipelines, especially heavy CG VFX ones where some of the first things you learn as a junior is project structure, like naming conventions,
Yeah,
how to work with digital asset management systems, and structure your projects become when you're working on multi-vendor shows, or you're part of a studio, like your whole system can break really quick if it is just messy because you're like,
yeah,
where are these files? And then, where did it go? And what version are
yeah,
we on? And that's one thing I think a lot of newcomers to Comfy to Weavy to Flora, to any of these node-based compositors, these are mostly linear people coming into, node-based workflows. I love node-based workflows because it gives you a much better overall picture of like how things are done or connected when done right. So I
yeah,
think that's one thing that people should take the time to do is while they're structuring this, because you have so many different versions of outputs. Where are you storing it? Where is it going? How's it structured? Like what you were just saying, Andy. And that's like, the worst thing to have to do is have to go through back projects just to spend time to do cleanup.
yeah. Well, and in the interest of time, Jim, we're going to give you the floor. You're excited about a gadget of the week. You've got
Yeah.
something. You got
I've
something
got
fun sitting in front of you.
I've got a thing that's not even out yet. So you guys are getting a sneak peek for the first one. So I've been teaching this workshop today and yesterday all about high speed cinematography, anamorphics, motion control, and there is a new high speed camera system coming to market, which is this lovely little camera here. This is PixBoom Spark. So this is not on the market yet. It was shown at NAB, shown at Cinegear. I believe they're also going to do IBC coming up. So this is a 4K 1000 frames per second capable camera. Um, and it's under a price point of existing high speed camera systems that are out there. And for those who have not shot high speed, especially with red light cameras or vision research cameras with like Flex, Veo,
Yeah,
um, systems out there, in previous years, it was prohibitively expensive for specialty high speed cameras.
totally.
Well over $150,000 for the cameras. And, my first 2 terabyte Cinemags were like 25 grand a pop. Um, so this is exciting camera system because it's new to market. Like we talked about with Chaos Arena and Nuke Stage, competition is good. Um, I don't know the full MSRP hasn't been stated yet, but this camera system will be under 15 grand,
Not bad.
which is pretty amazing. Um, Shot with it yesterday for the first time. The images look good. It was, I think it's being advertised at up to 13 stops of dynamic range
I
with the
was going to say
system.
3 stops, 4 stops.
It is
13's good. Yeah, that's good.
it is dual ISO, 400 and 1250 in terms of
Hmm.
dual ISO. It is global shutter, so that is really good. I don't,
Wow.
um, you know,
What's
uh,
the recording? The format, is it a
um,
proprietary raw kind of?
yeah. So it is raw. It does have its raw wrapper, which rewraps a DNG sequence. It is. I believe 10-bit capable off the bat, but is also capable of up to 12-bit. And that is kind of like because it is still a prototype camera, it's still in the works, but
Right.
because it does have the capability to do more. And when I was looking at the files in Resolve yesterday, there was a lot of latitude in there.
Nice.
One of the first tests you do is you take the sensor and you don't directly point it at the sun, but a good take of latitude and where things blow out with the sensor is normally on CMOS or rolling shutter sensors, you would see a black dot where the sun is. On global
Yeah, it
shutter,
solarizes. Yeah, yeah.
sensitive. On this one, you don't have the black dot because it is also global shutter. But
Nice.
this is my kind of gadget of the week. Obviously, and it's small.
That's tiny.
Yeah.
That's
Here's an
tiny.
iPhone.
Yeah.
Compared to this, it does have built-in
Very.
touchscreen right onto the top. We've got Obviously, you've got your I/O support here, HDMI, SDI, capability out for line through Ethernet, um, V mount for this one on the back. You've got your solid state media here. Um,
How long can you shoot for continuously?
so it does have a continuous, it
Like a
does have
buffer,
capability for a
looping
continuous
buffer?
buffer.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think right now there is a 2.5 terabyte module.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like TBD as to like what other accessories and expansion slots will be out there for media and IO. And it's still early, so it's like a sneak peek. And we're doing
Yeah,
this
no,
workshop here at Lux Stages in LA with got some lovely fancy Atlas anamorphics I've been playing with on the Moco bots here. Um, so yeah, it's cool.
it's nice.
It's
It
good to
is
see a sub, you know,
$80,000.
yeah, Phantom Flexes still sell for 130K, and
Yeah,
we have Free Fly Ember that's out there, and obviously we have Reds and we have the Alexa Extreme now. But when you need to go above, 500, 600 frames, you start
yeah,
to get
yeah,
into these specialty cameras. So having a camera that could do 4K DCI at 1,000 frames per second is very nice to have
yeah.
it at a certain price point and accessible. And so far, I've been talking to the team here, and they've been very receptive of feedback. So that's what we like to see from all these tools that we're using.
Yeah, the
One
name
more,
with us again.
yeah, one more time. The
So
name.
the company is called PixBoom, and the camera model is called this is called a Spark.
Spark.
Awesome.
Yep,
PixBoom Spark. We'll put a
I'm gonna
link for
call
everybody.
I'm gonna call mine Sparky.
There you go.
Sparky's Magic Piano.
Yeah,
Yes, but that's my
Awesome.
gadget of the week.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's be respectful of your and the audience's time, and just do one last little thing real quick,
Yeah,
which is the crazy corner, which is basically finding things and not even showing them to each other, and getting a real time reaction. I've got one. I don't know if you have one or not, Jim, but I'll let me just load this up real quick because this ties into last week we were talking about. We're talking about vibe coding specifically, and let me just do a little screen share here. And
mine would probably
Crazy
be about
corner.
splats.
I believe this is
Yours.
the
What
one.
would yours be, Jim?
It'd probably be the updates of splats, and splat
Yeah.
workflows. Just seeing them getting better and better and better from like our early Nerf days into Gaussian splats. There's definitely been some updates. There's a lot of splat talk at SIGGRAPH, and we've seen some uh, post shot 1.0 is now it's like out of beta, and we got post shot updates in there. And I won't talk about the pricing because I know pricing always tends to
It
take
changes
one camp
like life.
one way or the other.
Yeah. So this
Andy, tell us
is
what we're looking at.
this is Touch Designer. If I unmute it, I'm not going to, but the creator of this is talking about it. This is, I don't know him, so I don't know sort of where his technical skills are in terms of coding. But based off of how he's talking about it, this is very vibe coded. So it is a vibe coded ChatGPT, vibe coded Python script being run and executed in Touch Designer that just does kind of cool text. And he's got like I forget what he named the slider, like craziness slider on it. The drum I've been beating on vibe coding and like Midjourney and what I'm calling doodling is it's not a good way to do stable, solid, shippable code and products and to be a member of a larger development team. It's phenomenal for people whose output requires code, but their specific role does not require creating code. So this is a touch designer. This is a visual guy. This is a guy, who makes stuff. I'll throw a link to this Instagram video. You can follow him as Null MPEG. But I love this just from the standpoint of this is not a developer
Yeah.
developing a cool thing. This is an artist using vibe coding to get the output that they want and not really having to worry anymore about the process. I'm so happy to see this kind of stuff. This is not going to be a plugin that he's going to ship and support. Nobody else has to use this. This is vibe coding. This is what vibe coding should be. Is just, I've got an idea and I don't care about the code. I just want to make this thing. And he made the thing. And I think that's awesome.
Which your
Fast
son did as
experimenting.
well.
Yeah.
Your
That's
son,
what I
your
love about
9-year-old
this
son.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's all
my son walked up to me last night with his iPad and said, "I made this." And I didn't even know he knew the URL for Gemini. He had seen a YouTube video of a guy playing like a very simple game, like you click the screen and you get money and points and you can get upgrades, and it's just a clicker. It's a very simple game. Instead of asking us if he could buy that app and then downloading that app and playing that app, he used Gemini completely on his own. I swear to God, used Gemini, and last night was the first time I'd seen him do this at all, to vibe code a version of the game and then play it himself, which was, it just opens up all kinds of, it's not very good on, it's good on his iPad in terms of the design, like rounded corners and stuff like that. It didn't translate very well, but you literally just click and then it's got a shop with upgrades and you can upgrade your clicker. You can
cool.
catch these ducks, and there's settings. You can turn the auto clicker on, and now the auto clicker's on. This is less like, look what my son made, and more, there's a fascinating thing happening now, which is instead of downloading a mobile game, a stupid little throwaway game to play, he made it and thus got the enjoyment of kind of, specifying what to do and tweaking and refining. And, he was like, I'm going to add a shop, and so, so we got the creativity of coding and the fun of playing the game that he wanted to play. This is a whole new thing. Like he's 8. He's 8. This is a door, right? Like this is a new kind of entertainment, right? Like it is the joy of creation and the joy of entertainment. And that's
which brings us neatly in just only 15 minutes over time to the end of our show. We did get a question, but I want to respect Jim's time. At least we can maybe take a couple of questions here at the end. Jim, I know you got to run for your workshop, but I want to
run right behind this wall to robots and LED walls and high-speed cameras. But thanks as always for catching up. Obviously, everybody knows where to find me on social media and all that fun stuff. And I'll make sure to tag you all on some of the content and tests that I've been doing over here, and make sure you guys see it too.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Cool, guys.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Thanks,
appreciate you being
here.
Good one. We will see you soon. Have fun today.
Yeah, see you guys.
And then there was one question that came through, which was, any recommendations on which are the best free AI tools like these that I can introduce to first-year design and 3D animation students, ideally something that doesn't have to be installed? There's a ton. The vast majority of the very user-friendly stuff is actually not available offline. It's not available local. It's not available to install. So it depends on if it's folks designing still frames, like concept art, storyboards, reference, whatever, or if it's students who are more interested in sort of MoGraph and filmmaking and making stuff. On the still side, Midjourney's kind of the reigning champ and kind of always has been. There are other models. There's stuff you can download in Comfy UI. Comfy UI is free to download. A lot of the models are free to use. Stable Diffusion is probably a big one. SDXL and Stable Diffusion 1.5, 3.5. But in terms of just folks that have not really messed with it too much, I would say step one, just ask ChatGPT to make an image. ChatGPT can or Gemini, yeah, depending on which one you're using. Claude as well can sort of, but Gemini and ChatGPT can both look at images and tell you things about them and create images from those, and can, from your chat, create images and edit those images. It's a great baby on-ramp. It has none of the control we've been talking about a lot today. It's wildly, it's just a slot machine. You're just try it again, try it again, try it again. Then for video, Runway and Kling tend to kind of come up a lot as being sort of the really user friendly. There's a lot of people making a lot of really cool stuff with both of those tools. They're not used in high end, proper professional pipelines because they're slot machines. They're getting better and better. You can give it an image, you can give it text prompts. Kling just added, you can give it the first frame and the last frame, and it will very literally stick where the first frame of the video will be the first frame you gave it, and the last frame of the video will be the last frame you gave it, and it will just animate between them. Super powerful. And then again, as they get more advanced, Comfy UI is probably the biggest piece of advice to anybody that sort of wants to live in that middle space between the online tools where you're kind of getting what you get and the traditional tools where you're getting exactly what you want. Comfy UI is kind of a nice bridge between those. And the secret to Comfy UI is up in the top left corner in the menu. There's a templates option. There's a open templates, and that'll pop open a little browser that has all these different categories: image, video, online services, audio, and then you click. So top left template. Oh, they moved it. Great. So Flux is all things Flux. Image is a bunch of image models. You just click on any one of those, and it'll basically tell you the models that you should just click on. Yeah, do that one. It opens it up. Those are the missing models. Click on the download links. It'll download them. You don't have to do it. It'll blow up your hard drive, and it'll kill your bandwidth. But that's the best way to get how to learn anything in Comfy UI. And then to go back to my very aggro view, a lot of them are very well organized, but it's not very clear. Like, why are those three muted? What do they do? How does data flow from one node to the other? So they're not fantastic for learning, but they are great to just very quickly get SDXL working or get Flux context installed and working and start playing with it. But I would definitely start with the online tools. Don't start with Comfy. Comfy's when they start hitting those ceilings on the online tools. All right. I think that was the only question that we need to hit right now. Yep, looks like that was...
Thanks for asking. It was a great question. Keep them coming. We'd love to hear what you think of the show. Love feedback. Love hearing about what you would like to see more of, less of, how we can keep improving this as we go. We're on episode 2. We intend on continuing to do this and making it be what you want it to be. So tell us what you want. Tell us what's going on. Tell us what you're excited about, scared of. All those things will help us make this be what it needs to be or wants to be, which is what we want to do with it.
And we're gonna keep trying to get it closer to an hour.
Closer this week.
Closer, 10 minutes closer. We're on our way.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Andy, for being my great, wonderful co-host, and thank you all for participating. We look forward to seeing you all on the next show in 2-ish weeks' time, although we will be going to IBC, so it may be just after that. But hope to see you. Anyone who's at IBC, give us a call. Love to see you there. Anyone who's at Reset in London from the 8th to the 10th, I will be there chairing the education team as a part of Reset, which is a reset as the world is resetting, the industries are resetting. And we're going to talk a lot about how that is, what that means. But thank you for being here. Thank you again, Andy. Thank you to Jackie in the background producing. We'll see you all soon.